we're always taught how to stretch $5, right? We're always taught how to be careful, don't overspend. At least that's what I grew up with, right? And I think that was the generation. But nobody really ever taught us how to work with money. And so I think that's why a lot of the people that have the bigger messes have more revenue, have more money.
All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Micah Smith, and I am the host of the Rebuild and Rise show. And today I have a very special guest, and she actually is a powerhouse in the world of financial planning. She is the co founder of Fit Wealth Advisors, and she is known as the Fit Financial. She has spent over 15 years helping women take control of their money and build lasting wealth. She's a passionate advocate for financial confidence, especially when for women balancing business, family, and life. And she brings real talk and smart strategy to every conversation. When she's not working alongside her husband and business partner, Sean, she's hanging out with their three kids, enjoying good food and staying fueled on coffee. Please welcome Amanda. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Micah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Absolutely. It's kind of a happy accident. It's how we met. I think it was so funny when I showed my husband your profile. He was like, "Oh my god." He's like, "She's the blonde version of you." And I was like, "She really is." It was really cool. The meeting, we just happened to find each other by chance on Instagram. I had been so excited for this interview. I have so many questions for you. Before I get into the questions I wrote down, I did want to just like off the cusp, I wanted to ask you about something you had posted the other day. You had posted something the other day about the most expensive day of the week. Can you please tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about this, especially in terms of retirement. So, people that are getting ready to retire, we talk about the financial freedom number a lot, and the most expensive day of the week is Saturday, right? You're a lot of times you're going to be going out to breakfast, maybe going and grabbing coffee with your significant other, going to lunch, maybe a mani pedi, going shopping. It just things add up, and it's one of those days of the week where everything's just kind of spur of the moment. Maybe you're gonna be spending some money on a house project, but essentially Saturdays are the most expensive day of the week, and that's why I made that post on Friday because, "Hey, let's sit down and have our financial Friday overview. Are we ready for that most expensive day of the week, Saturday?"
Yeah, that's amazing. I would have never in a million years have thought to think of a day as the most expensive day, but I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I love that you prepare people. One of my mentors says, an ounce of preparation is worth more than a pound of cure. So I love that you help people with this. I think it's invaluable. So one of the first questions I had for you. So one of the things that you went viral for was you had a no spend year. And so, as I've been following your journey, I just wanted to ask you what inspired you to take on such a bold financial challenge? And was there a turning point in your life that actually made you commit to this?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked me both those questions at the same time because they are very mirrored. So I remember building when I first started my first business, which was a financial firm, and I just remember sitting there one day feeling very overwhelmed, feeling very sick to my stomach, feeling very just like I had this huge financial mess. I was making more money than I ever had for the very first time in my life. And I was also in more credit card debt than I had ever been in. And it got to a point where I knew something had to change. I had all the clothes, I had the car, I had the shoes, I had all the things. But was sitting there one night all by myself in my office, and I had to just have this realization moment that something has to change or nothing is going to change, right? And it was in that moment that I realized I had to add up all the debt. I had to see what my mess was and figure out my situation. And then my poor husband knew nothing about this because as business owners, we can send packages to our office. We can have everything mailed to our office. We can take out our own debt, right? We can do all of those things. And I was a master at it. And it became a situation where it happened so quick. I think that you make money for the first time, you're not really taught what to do with it. And then all of a sudden you have this lifestyle you're trying to keep up with. I had dug myself out of this hole. My husband was wonderful and patient, and I did it on my own. I just knew I needed accountability, and um, so I had basically gotten myself out of this mess, and I was very proud and happy that I had done that. But I started finding myself going back there again. Started finding myself following the influencer, finding the cute outfit or whatever it was, getting the packages again. And I had that moment of no, I cannot go back to that mess again. I cannot. So there's something deeper with this that I need to figure out. And so it was in that moment, not the moment of, oh crap, I'm in a big deep hole, but the moment of I already been there once, twice, actually, that was the 3rd time, but I don't wanna go back there again and something needs to change, and it was in that moment of realizing that I don't wanna go back there again, something dramatic has to happen that I decided, I needed to do something dramatic, and that was when I decided to do my year of no shopping, and it was like January 1st or, March 1st or a Monday. I mean, it was just some random day of the week, and it wasn't that I decided to do it for a year, it's just that I decided to quit shopping altogether for a while, and it had been 3 or 4 months or so, and I just thought to myself, "Why not go a whole year? I haven't missed anything." And so I almost turned it into this challenge, and I started shopping my own closet. I started using, like, the Pinterest app to, you know, shop my own closet, and it really honestly became fun. It became empowering. I discovered my triggers for why I wanted to shop. I
Mm.
discovered, I was masking pain from way before. I think we all have a money story that leads us into our messes. But that essentially is what that whole year of no shopping did. Is it really helped me understand the why behind
Mhm.
my sort of not enoughness, if you will. And I learned a lot from that year.
Sure. Do you feel that you were attaching a lot of your value to the things that you owned?
So for me, so a little bit of my backstory. So I have a brother that was killed in a car accident when I was 16, and he was killed when he was only 17.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
being that young, I obviously didn't know what to do, all those big feelings of grief. And a very small but powerful moment had happened. And I had gone through a drive through for the first time and spent my own money for the first time.
Mm.
And this may sound small, but what that realization was is that buying that $5 meal,
Mhm.
it helped me feel better for a brief moment. And so
Mm.
that's really what that year of no shopping uncovered for me, is it made
Mm.
me realize that that is deeper than just feeling good in clothes or feeling better. It soothed something that I learned early on as a teenager.
Wow.
So very small but powerful, but if you don't do something extreme, I'm not saying it has to be a year of no shopping, but
Sure.
for me, that's how I began to uncover those deep feelings of why.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful though, because what you did is you did that deep self introspection and said, enough is enough is enough. And they say change comes from either inspiration or desperation. And so, wherever you have to pull from, I'm like, I don't care what it is. If it's inspiration or desperation, wherever you have to pull from is great. But I mean, what a powerful story. And I wish that I hope that I hope that a million people hear this and take something away because we're seeing people are struggling with this more than ever. And what we don't realize is that I think it is a lot deeper than what people would ever imagine. But, not taking the time to be self introspective like you are, like we never really uncover what the root of the problem is. So that is amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. That was really amazing. And I'm really sorry to hear about your brother at such a young age. That's a devastating loss for sure. For sure, for sure. So I wanted to ask you, so you're known for merging faith, fitness, and finances. And I actually wanted to see which one of those have you struggled with the most and how did you overcome this?
So I would definitely say finance, 100%. I've always been very rooted in my faith, family. After losing a close family member, we were always a very close family, but especially then, we've always been, family has always been so, so important. So those two things have always been pillars. But I think finance, and for the reason that one may not think. And so I think, we're always taught how to stretch $5, right? We're always taught how to be careful, don't overspend. At least that's what I grew up with, right? And I think that was the generation. But nobody really ever taught us how to work with money when we're
Mhm.
making a lot of it. Like,
Yeah.
when you're making $50,000 a month, how do you navigate that? Right? We're taught how to stretch money, but we're not taught how to build wealth with a lot of money. And so I think that's why you and I have talked before about how a lot of the people that have the bigger messes have more revenue, have more money. And so I think that's really what the source of all the issues are. And again, it goes
Mhm.
back to me when I was making more money for the first time in my life than I ever had. That's when I had the most debt, right? You just get caught up in this lifestyle because, yeah, we're taught how to stretch, but we're not taught necessarily how to manage a larger amount.
Yeah. Wow. So so true, and I'm not gonna go on too much of a of a rant, but I was literally just talking to my mentor this morning about this exact topic, and it's like, you make more, so you spend more. You make more, so you spend more. Your income level increases, but so does your lifestyle. And the problem is one of my favorite books. They talk about he that is happiest is not he that has the most, but needs the least. And I think that is such a powerful principle that I wish more people understood. It's like, and if you think about it, like your entire year of no spending, you really realize how much you actually don't need, and it really puts you in a very different mindset, right?
How much we actually already have and how, it allows our creativity to blossom.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, I think this is something I feel so many people are struggling with. And I think it's not just women. And I know that you do focus on helping women, but I just think people in general, I want to focus on people in general because I speak to men and women both alike. And I just feel like so many people are stuck right now in survival mode. And what I would like for you to share with our listeners is what would be the first step into stepping into your own financial strength when you just feel like all is lost and you just kind of feel like I'm never going to get out of this mess. You just feel very downtrodden, really, just about finances and where you are. Like, where do you begin?
Yeah, I love that question. I oftentimes call it playing defense when you should be playing offense. And
Yeah, I like that.
um, yeah, and you actually spoke about this on my podcast, but the number one step is just laying it all out there. Like,
Hmm.
I think so often we avoid our situation because we just simply don't know what to do, and so we choose to do nothing.
Yeah,
And I think the step number one is to lay all the cards out there. What are we even dealing with right now?
yeah.
And then the second one is to figure out, where do I want to go? What does the security, financial freedom, what does that actually mean to me? Because it's
Mm,
different for everyone. And it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, if you're male, if you're female, it doesn't matter because it's your why, it's your freedom. right? So maybe that means you want to go snowbird when you're 70 years old and live in Arizona and not have to, ever work again.
Yeah.
That's going to look entirely different for somebody that does want to work a little bit, literally until the day they die. Like, I will probably be that person, but
Right? Me too.
that doesn't mean that I wanna have to work because I'm trying to pay my bills. It means that I want to work because I enjoy it and I'm having fun and I just love creating.
Yes.
So I think, number 1, lay it all out there. What are you dealing with? Let's stop avoiding our situation no matter how bad it is. And then
Mhm.
number 2, where do you wanna be? Because that, by figuring that out, then we can work backwards and figure out a plan from there.
I think that's so smart, and I think that there's so few people that take the time to just sit down and do something so simple that will inevitably help them get to the next step. And when do you think is a good time to introduce a professional?
So I think it's if you have avoided it far too long, right? And
What's too long?
everybody's too long is different.
Yep.
Right. And so I think it's a situation where if you have done an evaluation of your year
Mhm.
and it hasn't changed or it's gone backwards from the prior year, then that's a pretty good indicator, right? That you need to get help to move forward because
Sure.
we don't wanna sit in this stagnant place forever because we only have so many years to prepare for the future, right? And if we keep wasting each year by saying, "I'm going to do better, I'm going to get better," but we keep telling ourselves that same story. I mean, that's the definition of insanity, doing the same
Mhm.
over and over, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
I think that is the true test on when we need to get help, right? Or if we just feel stuck and can't figure out what to do. I think that's a good thing too.
I love that. I love that you have, like, so many of the things that you say are things that I say. It's just the funniest thing, like, how much we have in common. I love it. You have a very alike mindset.
I think the power in that though is that it really is not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing overwhelming. It is very simple, one thing at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. I One of my mentors said to me, he's like, "What's the easiest way to eat an elephant?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "One bite at a time." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And that's the truth though, right? We make these things much bigger than what they need to be. We just need to understand it's just one small thing at a time, and then eventually you end up getting to a point. It's that compound effect, and I teach my team that the compounding effect is everything. 1% better every single day ends up being the actual numbers. It's 37% better for the year. That was something I learned from Morgan Housel, and I just, people don't realize that the power of compounding. And I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit too when it comes to finances. But I did want to ask you um, about credit because obviously, being a credit specialist, I just want to hear from you firsthand how credit has played a role in your journey, not only as an individual, but also as a business owner and an entrepreneur. I'd love for you to talk about that journey.
Yeah. So credit and I have gone way back. Again, I was taught at a very young age to stretch a dollar, to never overspend, to, spend less than you make, just all the very like 101 things, but that
Mhm.
never worked for me.
Sure.
And so when I got my first credit card, I don't know why on earth they would give an 18-year-old college student a credit card. That should just be illegal. But, anyways, so I maxed that sucker out and I defaulted on it. I couldn't pay it, all the things, or chose not to. I don't know what I was thinking back in that day, but essentially my credit was just absolute junk, right? And then I had to get one of those prepaid, I don't know, you had a name for it,
Secured credit card?
your credit cards,
Yep.
where I had to literally pay to have a credit card, and
Yeah.
I did very good with it. And then I since have the same credit card since I was 20 years old, and just recently I had gotten a new vehicle, and it made more sense to finance because my credit score was now an 846, and it was just one of those things where it was like, "Excuse me, what?" It was a what? So, I think it is so helpful on a number of ways. So first of all, you pay a lot less for rates. So so you pay a lot less for money. You can leverage things a lot better, and that helps you to protect your cash. There's so many powerful ways that I think having good credit is helpful. And if I hadn't gone through that mess, I don't know that I'd be where I am now. I think everybody has to go through that messy journey, but you also have to be ready and willing to say enough is enough. I want to be responsible. I want to, I'm a mother now, right? And helping my son with his student loans, he pays less than any of his other friends on student loan rates because of my credit score. And it's one of those things where you not only save money, but it's a domino effect to your children too.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot with we teach the next generation so much, and you can teach them the good way and you can teach them the bad way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's something that I refer to often. I actually say that habits are caught, not taught, because people are going to usually emulate what they see. And you can tell, someone to do something all day long, but if they're seeing the exact opposite action, then what do you think they're going to pick up? And so it's something I think it's so powerful that you're passing along to the next generation. And I think that it is invaluable. And I think they're going to appreciate it when they're a little bit older, like, wow, I had no idea what my mom was doing for me all that time. I think in the moment, they're like, "Cool, whatever." But, as they get older, they're gonna be like, "Wow, that's something special," because it really is. It really, really is. Like, not a lot of people understand it, and not a lot of people have that opportunity to, go in with so much buying power, and that's really what it is. It's buying power. Were you ever stopped from doing something in the moment because your credit was not where you wanted it to be?
Yes, I am trying to think of a situation. It was a long time ago, but I think had I applied for like a Capital One credit card or something like that. I was not eligible because of my credit, which thank you, Lord, for not giving me the Capital One credit card at that point.
Totally.
But
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny. I love that. Has it helped you at all as well? Like, I assume in your line of work, I imagine they need you to have good credit. I imagine, or am I mistaken?
well, because we're business owners of our own firm, but I think it's one of those things where if I am not confident in my own financial security and my own financial situation, what am I doing trying to help other people in theirs? And so I think that for me is where it's the most powerful. And then I also find a lot of power knowing that, as an entrepreneur, we're always coming up with brilliant ideas, right? And I know that I can go get lending for any of those ideas. Not only do I have an excellent credit score, but I have an excellent net worth. I also have great relationships with bankers that will give me lending at great rates if I need that for other business ventures. And so I think as an entrepreneur, it's really powerful. I'm sure that you've seen this too, but I've seen the TikTok entrepreneurs talking about how it doesn't matter what your credit score is, just keep, you've probably seen it, but it just makes me cringe. But I think it's really important because, like you say, it is buying power. It gives us opportunity. And while cash might be king, it's not the only thing
Yeah.
that's important
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
cash can be spent tomorrow. But if you need to leverage, meaning if you need to obtain credit to buy a building, to expand in your business, that a lending institution is not going to want to give it to you if you have poor credit history.
Exactly. It drives me absolutely bonkers. I actually stay off of TikTok. I think my head would explode. Although I do have a new hire that's going to be regularly posting for me on TikTok, so I'll have
Say, I feel like you would do really excellent on TikTok, especially if you how they do the little call outs on.
yeah. Oh, you know what?
I can't. I got too much compliance and red tape on my side of the financial world.
I love it. That's funny. Well, I'll take that into consideration because I know it is a very good vertical for sure. For sure. For sure. I'm dying to ask this question. So a lot of women, and I think this fits me especially, but not just women. I think people in general are taught to play small with money, right? I think that we have a lack of abundance mindset. I teach an abundance mindset. What lie did you have to unlearn before you could actually step into true financial leadership?
So for me, this one, It resonates a lot, and it might be different than one might think, because I watched my mom work very, very hard, but she was also gone a lot. She was a teacher, but then when I think that we were in our extensive years, teenagers, college, she also worked part-time. And I saw that, and what that, I guess, portrayed to me is that in order for me to make money, to make ends meet, I have to be physically gone, right? I can't also be with my family and be the mother that I wanted to be. I had a wonderful mother, I'm not saying that, but she was gone a lot, or when she was home, she was working on school stuff. And so I think for me, the thing that I had to remove, especially as a woman that wants to be the heart of the home, is that I can't have both. I can't have this massive career that makes the money that I want to make and also be the mother and the wife and the fitness professional that I want to be. Right. I always carry this or like in between, right? I can
Mm,
be a good mom or have this amazing career. Like I couldn't. And so for both of those to be able to coexist, I had to like just stop listening to all the noise. And I think a lot of times the noise comes from within our own background and what we tell ourselves. So that for me was the biggest thing. And deciding that I'm going to break that glass ceiling and I'm going to be the mom, I'm going to be the wife, and I'm also going to have the career that I want to have. Now, I get up at 4:35 or 4:25 every single morning and, I don't sit down much, but gosh darn it, I'm doing it, and we'll see how long I can, I guess, keep the Energizer Bunny going.
Well, I will tell you, you're very inspiring to watch. I personally, I very rarely get on social media to look at other people's posts, but yours is one of the few that I constantly look at and I follow and I watch because you're always doing positive, inspirational, motivational things. I see you're doing like your 2 workouts a day now, and I'm like, this girl is on fire. She's got a lot of momentum, and it's a really great thing to see. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm at the fit financial underscore. That is my handle. Yeah, I love sharing. I love sharing. My son and I are actually doing a bodybuilding competition together in a couple of weeks. So we are a couple of weeks out. I don't normally do two-a-day workouts, but when we're this close to a show, it's kind of a must.
Good for you. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I also want to know too, Amanda, I know that you generally work with more high net worth clients. So who is your target client? Women, I do know this, and high net worth, but is there a specific individual that I want you to talk to the few that would find extreme value from your services?
So I have primarily found myself doing my best work with individuals who are online entrepreneurs who are generating decent revenue, but they just don't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
They do nothing, right? And they just kinda let it sit there, and it's kind of a someday thing. Like, someday I'm gonna set up the 401k. Someday I'm gonna separate my personal and business finances. Someday I'm going to do insert, whatever you feel like that someday is gonna be. So, I would say that that is the person that I do the best work with. But I also think that as financial planners, there's kind of this gap between the, like, I'm air quoting here, your dad's financial planner, where
Mhm.
they have the old stuffy office and they wear the suit and the tie every day, and you have to have your $1,000,000 portfolio before they'll work with you. There's a big gap between individuals who don't necessarily have $1,000,000 to invest, but are still in need of good financial advice. So that's where my husband and I came into the industry and said, we need to change that because that's the next generation. They will have $1,000,000, but maybe they don't have it right now. And we need to teach them how to have $1,000,000 and not spend everything that they're making now. So I generally work with people that are making anywhere from ten to $50,000 a month. And then we teach them about profit margin. We teach them about the different KPIs. We teach them about the profit and loss in their business. And then we teach them what to do on the personal side of their finances so that they can start saving for their financial future, their financial freedom number.
I mean, that is such an invaluable tool and is such a valuable skill set. And why learn it if you can work with a professional to give you the roadmap? You know what I mean? Like, why sit there and struggle trying to figure this out by yourself when you can actually have someone who's lived it, breathed it, and literally breathes it all day, every day? I mean, what an awesome opportunity for someone who's building a business. And like you said, I was guilty of that many years ago. I was very intimidated, quite honestly, by the financial industry because, I came from very humble beginnings and I didn't know where to start. I didn't know the questions to ask. So I just kind of let my little nest egg sit and collect 50 cents a year, or whatever. But, I think it's a really great thing for people to know who you are because this is something that I just wish more people understood and that more people would just take advantage of because it really is such a great opportunity. And I think my last question for you, because I want to make sure that people really, the whole purpose of our show is rebuild and rise, right? We want people to understand like there's hope on the other side. And I think my biggest question for you as we wrap up is I want to ask you if someone is sitting here thinking to themselves, you know what, like this Amanda lady sounds really, really great, but I probably can't afford her. I'm probably not going to be able to utilize her services, and they just have this moment of thinking that maybe they're not enough or that they don't have enough. What would you say to that person?
I would say definitely follow on social because they have a lot of little tidbits on there. And then we have a podcast as well. But I would say the number one thing that you can do, especially if you feel like you're stuck, it goes back to the foundational tools. It goes back to, we have this financial order of operations that we talk a lot about. And I talk a lot about that on my social media. So you can follow me on there. But it starts with doing the next right thing. And I think oftentimes we think it's this huge miraculous change that we have to make. But again, it goes back to laying it all out there. What does your situation look like? And then what is the next right thing? It's probably not going and having tacos on Friday with our friends, right? It's probably figuring out what our financial situation actually is and then the next right thing.
Yeah,
And then I also do have a money mentorship program for those individuals that do feel like they are really stuck and just need to get their stuff figured out.
I love that. That's huge. Well, this has been nothing short of wonderful. I have enjoyed every second that I have spoken to you, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. Thank you so much, Amanda. And again, if you want to leave us with where everyone can find you, once again, I just want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to find you because they should follow you. They need to work with you. If you can just let us know where to find you once again.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, Instagram is my main social account at the fitfinancial_. And then if you don't have Instagram, you can always go to fitwealthadvisors.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda.